having access to that data. So Vanderbilt created this whole separate one, and it has two main purposes, which we'll talk about, which is online surveys and then research databases. It's HIPAA compliant, so if you're conducting research in the context of the US, this meets all of the requirements there of keeping specifically patients' medical information or participants' medical information secure. And then the big thing I want to flag, we had some questions come in about this, is REDCap is not a data analysis software. So REDCap is a great tool to export your data, and then you can use it in SPSS, RStudio, Stata, whatever tool you're interested in. But for the most part, we do not analyze data in REDCap. We use it to either store data or collect it. It's stored by the Institute, which I briefly mentioned. So Sangath ARG, for example, or all Sangath, I think it's based in Goa. It has its own server drive for this. So if this data is not being shared outside of our institution, huge plus of it is it has multiple users per project. So I can have a login, Kim could have a login, anyone else across hubs. If you have collaborators, so we work on a project with CMHLP, they can use it. So it's great for team-based activities. Another huge pro of REDCap, it has a built-in audit trail. So let's say Kim and I are working on a project together, and one day I accidentally screw something up. I accidentally delete some participant data. Our supervisor, they could go in and they could see exactly when I messed up and that it was my account that did it. So if you're working on big teams where there might be confusion, that's helpful. And there's also various user rights. So let's say if I made that mistake, maybe my supervisor doesn't trust me anymore. They can then give me less user rights. So they can say I can input data, but I'm not allowed to edit. I can't delete. I can't change the survey. So it's really customizable. And it's also a great tool for longitudinal studies. So you can add lots of benchmarks. So 4-month follow-up, 8-month follow-up, 12-month follow-up, and you can copy over the same instruments. And it works great for RCTs. You can actually do randomization inside of REDCap. So you still have to upload, or your statistician has to upload the allocation sequence for randomization, but REDCap will give you this beautiful button that says randomize for your participants. So if you're looking to really protect your participants' data, REDCap is a great tool for you. So I've touched on a couple of things we use it for. So forms or databases. So if you have a research team, they're going out to PHCs and they're inputting information directly, and there's a small group, you might make them all REDCap accounts and they themselves can upload this information. We use REDCap in my other team a lot for quality control and quality assurance checks. So just going through monitoring the status of all the data. You can also do surveys. So I'll be referring to one specific project being conducted by the ARG right now. It's the GCC Being Initiative project. So I'll refer to that a lot as just kind of a concrete example. So there's one, we're doing a nationwide survey. No REDCap account is required for that. We just get a link, we post it, anyone can fill it out. Or if you have a list of emails of your potential participants and you're worried about doing a public link because you're not sure who will respond, you can also go on REDCap and you can put in those emails and they'll each get their own customizable link. So if I only want certain people to fill it out and I have their emails, that's a great tool. And then we won't go into these today, but just so you know, you can complete online e-consents on REDCap. They have a whole separate feature just for consenting, which is awesome if you're doing a national level survey and you might not have collaborators physically in certain areas. Or we saw this as a really great feature during the early stages of the pandemic. And then you can also schedule follow-ups within a calendar system inside REDCap to send a reminder of here's your 4-month follow-up survey. So we won't do that today, but especially if you're planning longitudinal studies, if you're planning RCTs with several check-ins, this I think would be a great tool for you. What we'll be doing today, though, is really going over survey customization. So you have these research projects, and then you have all of those separate components that we already briefly discussed. But we'll be going over these things called branching, piping, field embedding, matrix fields, field validation. So if your data team contact is on a well-deserved holiday for a month and you need to launch a survey right away, you'll be able to. You can also, REDCap came out with a new feature about a year ago called multi-language management. So you can offer your surveys in any language that you put in. So this is a new feature that previously didn't exist. So now you don't need separate links for each language of a survey. You can just have a toggle button on the top and switch. And then the other really important feature I want to flag that's in REDCap is this thing called identifiers. So let's say you have to send data to a third party to analyze it, or if you're sending it back to a funder, and you don't want to share participants' names, date of birth, contact information, government ID numbers, anything like that, there's a little feature in REDCap, which I'll show. You just click identifiers, and then afterwards, when you export this data, it's going to remove any of the identifiers. So it makes it really, really easy to share data if some of that data is personal. So I'm going to stop screen sharing and I'm going to switch over to REDCap. And again, I think everything I just went through quickly will hopefully make a lot more sense once we all get to go in REDCap together and use it. So let me just log in and then we'll get started. Okay. All right, so what we should all see right now is the REDCap login. And what you can notice at the top is it says survey.sangath. So every institution has their own REDCap. So when I log into REDCap through my home institution in the US, it's a different link. So just keep that in mind. So you'll hit log in. And then usually it'll take you to my projects. So you can see we use this account for that other project, the photo voice activities. So you'll see lots of projects already in here. And we're going to go to new project. So this one will say YMHG sample survey, just for fun. And we'll do a blank one that we'll make ourselves. Great. And then the big thing, if you are launching a survey, that it will take you under project setup, you will hit enable survey, because otherwise you'll just have that form option, which means no one can complete anything unless they have a REDCap login. So we'll start there. And then where you're going to be spending a lot of your time is in this designer tab right here. So I'm going to rename this, hopefully, 1 second. I'll get to that after. I'll enable it as a survey. So we'll call this screener. You can leave directions. You can also see if you want to add a logo, which I won't be doing, you can add that here as well. A limitation of REDCap, not the prettiest compared to other survey platforms. So what you get in privacy and security, you lack an aesthetic. You have some options to change the font and things, but it certainly will not be the prettiest survey ever created. So this I won't go too into. There are a couple of different things. You can allow people to download their responses as a PDF. You can set things across multiple pages. Other important things, there's text to speech. So if you're working with individuals where there might be some doubts surrounding their comfort with reading, you can change it into having this read out loud. You can put response limits. So if you say you have a certain amount of compensation you can provide and you don't want over 100 responses, you can fill that out there. So there are lots of great features here. time limit as well. You can put on if you're worried about someone spending extra time on this. Survey expiration. So if you know your recruitment goes on for 1 week and you want it to end at a certain time, you can do that. And then you can edit the text at the end. So thanks for taking the survey. Please follow Sangath on social media, something like that we usually have. So you can go through, here's that e-consent, which we won't cover. And you can also do a confirmation email once they've done it. So that are just some very quick features. And then I'm going to create a second instrument, and this is going to be the actual survey. So our first one will be the screener. The second will be the survey. If I can hopefully rename to the screener. Okay. So just what a recap, all we've done so far is we made a new project and we created 2 separate instruments within it. One of which is our screener, one of which is the survey. And we need to enable both of these as a survey because otherwise only people that have a REDCap account will be able to complete them. Can I get like a thumbs up if we're still following this so far? Or if you have any doubts or concerns, Kim's here moderating the chat. So you can put that in the chat and then I can go back and revisit certain things. So we'll do that same thing we just did for the screener. We're enabling the survey. All of these have those same exact features. Let's say you launch it and you realize, oh no, I accidentally messed up on something. You can turn the survey offline right here. We'll keep it active for now. And this has all of those same features. So you can change, again, the text, the font, you can add a logo, and all these customizable things. The big ones I'll flag, response limits, as well as survey expiration. And then you can customize the message that you put at the end, or you can redirect to a URL if there's a project website that you want to send them to. So those are just a couple of the features. But again, I will keep saying this, the best way to learn REDCap is to just go and make your own mock survey. I worked with colleagues at CMHLP on this, and we did a similar kind of Zoom call like this of an introduction. And then they all said, once you actually start working in REDCap, it's really not too intimidating. So we'll start with then the screener. So again, this will be the silliest kind of mock survey ever. So these questions probably won't make the most sense. It'll be a blend of some researchy questions and then some just silly ones, just so we can test out things. So when you want to add a new question, you hit add field right here. And you have all these different options. So you have a text box. So this just gives you about 1 short line to respond to. Notes box. So if you want someone to write a longer response, you can have that. Calculated field, if you wanted to, let's say you were calculating scores on different measures and you want to find out what their total score is on a screener, you can set that logic up in this. Multiple choice options, checkbox, yes, no, true or false. You can collect signatures on REDCap. So again, that's great for consent. We use this for our photo voice data collection. So participants submit their photographs to us on REDCap. So file upload, there's a slider, and then there's descriptive text. So if you want to upload an image, if you want to upload a video, no question, you can do that too. So we're going to start with, we'll say text box, and I want to find out what their age is, because for my mock survey, I want young adults aged 18 to 24. So what is your age? And then you need to have a variable name. This is really, really, really important for when you're exporting your data. So if I called this something silly, like 18, it wouldn't make the most sense, because then when you download this and look at it in Excel, then we won't really know exactly what 18 is. So I'm going to call it age. So that way all of the different responses will fall under the column. If I wanted to make this required, so someone cannot move on in the survey until they fill this out, you can say yes or no right here. I'll say no just for the sake of when we test this out, it'll go quicker. And then here's that thing I mentioned earlier called identifier. So if this was their name, their date of birth, if it was their address, if it was some personal information, we would click yes to identifier. And that would mean, again, when we export the data, we can click no identifiers. So you manually don't need to remove this personal information. REDCap will do it automatically. So I'll say no for this. And then we're just going to save that for now, keep it really simple. So what is your age? And then we're going to do a yes, no this time and say, do you live in India? And then I can call this one India. And then when you hit this yes or no field type, notice down here, the choices already populate as yes or no. So that's if you know you're just asking a yes or no or true or false, this is a good option for you right here because you don't need to go in and add more options. And then the last thing I'm going to add, so this would be a really, really short screener. So this obviously, we know as researchers, we wouldn't have our screener this short, but I just wanted to display this one thing called piping. So imagine you have this list of 10 screening questions. You're asking about medical history, you're asking about location, migration, different health conditions, so many things. And you're worried by the time you get to the bottom of your screener, are you going to remember what they said above? Are they going to be eligible or not? So what we like to do on our really long screeners is this thing called piping. So if piping is, you put it, I'll give an example so it'll make sense. I'll do checkbox. So I'll say age in India. So if you recognize these were those variable names from those past two questions. So I didn't just randomly come up with age in India. That's where it came from. So this is, again, just a practical addition to your screener. So this one, 18 to 24 years old, and then living in India. I won't make it required. I'll call this the checklist or screener. No identifiers here, and I'll save it. So what I'm going to do now is show you what that all looks like very, very quickly. So if you ever, let's say you're happy with your survey, you are ready to share it with the world, you're ready to launch it, you'll go to Survey Distribution Tools, and then open Public Survey. And this is what it looks like. So this message right here, please complete the survey below. When we first enabled the survey for the screener, and there was that long list of all different options, that's where you can edit that. So if you wanted your logo, a photo, so you can make this look a little bit nicer and clean it up. So if I'm saying my age is 18, notice right there, it auto-populates. So that's what piping is in REDCap. Piping is when you take a response from a past question and you have it show up in a future one. And do you live in India? Yes, they say right there. Or let's change it. No, it changes. Let's change this to 23. It changes. So if you were doing a really, really long list of screening questions, then you wanted to have a quick recap of what someone's responses were, piping is great. Another good use of piping is, let's say you have a longitudinal study and you want to say, hi, Kim, welcome to your 2-month follow-up. So then you would pipe what Kim put in for her name in that first baseline survey, and it would show up in the 2-month one. So if you want to make your survey a bit more personal, if you don't want to have them repeat information, that's a great use of piping. So now we'll go back in. So that was our little screener. But we need to then, we don't want to show them the survey unless they're eligible. The whole point of our screener is to ensure that we're only having people take the survey who meet our eligibility requirement. So that's when we're going to go to this thing called a survey queue right here. And keep add custom text. So this is a great example of how I use REDCap. If I get confused, and if I didn't know how to do this, I would just go to Google, and 8 or 9 times out of 10, this answer would be there. So I'm going to activate the survey one. So I want to have it when the screener is completed and when this logic comes true. So I would want age to be greater or equal to 18. And I want age to be less than or equal to 24. And then, and I want India to equal 1. So sometimes you can add parentheses. So we'll see if this works. Otherwise, I tested it before. So we'll go back. So age here, that's that variable name. So remember when I said it was really important to give it a good, clear name? This is why, because if I called that Sammy 123, I would just be confused if someone else came in this. So this is our greater than or equal to 18 years old. But I also want them to be younger than or equal to 24 years old. And then if we, this 1 is the yes. So you would never type in here for a yes, no question. You wouldn't type in the yes or the no. You would do this numerical value of the 1 or the 0 for no. So we're going to give this a try, and I'll see, I might have to add some parentheses, but the nice thing with REDCap, it won't tell you what you need to do to fix it, but if it's very wrong, it will flag it at the bottom. So if I do this, let's see if it will, it won't say anything like valid. So if I did that, but then if I have this, then it comes up. So this is making me feel pretty decent that this might work. So again, one quick recap. You take your variable names, whatever your criteria is. So if I wanted to add parentheses, we can try that as well. We'll see if they like it. I'll say update and close. And then let me just see what this little tab is, auto start. I'll click that. So that way, once it's done, it'll go into the next one. We'll hit save. And now we're going to very quickly test to see if this works. So let me go into my other survey. I have it paused right now. So we'll relog in and make sure we have it working. Again, if you have any questions up until this point, put them in the chat. Otherwise, we will continue moving forward. Okay. So now I'm going to add just one mock question on the survey. So we have this right here. So if you remember, we hit add field. And I'm going to ask text box, short text, you say, what is today's date and time? So say date underscore time. And here's a fun new feature, validation. So if I'm asking date and time, I don't want them typing in their email. I don't want them typing in their name. I know I'm going to want some numbers. So they give you all these options. You can require that they have date in a certain format. They can do date and time like this. So we'll do month and day, then year, hour, and minute. And then I'm going to add very quickly, you can put in today. So these are these things called option tags. So I'm going to pull up here. Can you all see when I have this action tag thing pulled up? Awesome. So here are ways that you can add some fancy features onto your responses. So this is the one I want right now. I want the one that says now. So that way, if someone starts filling this out, I don't want them to look at their watch or look at their phone. I'm going to make it really easy for them. So I'm going to do this action tag now. So today would be just the date. Now should give us the exact time and date. So now that we have this, we're going to go build out this survey a ton more. And then we will go and test it. Question?
Yeah.
Going to
Someone's asked for
yes, creating design for each question of the questionnaire. We're doing, I mean, there's 4 options in our entire budget. Really design each question separately. If it's one questionnaire that's has if this individual is comfortable coming off mute, Shivangi, and saying more, if it's like, let's say it's a PHQ and you have 9 questions, I would do it all on the same sheet. So I wouldn't do one instrument for each question. I would have that all together, all in one sheet. If that doesn't answer your question, please follow up in the chat and then I can provide more clarity. You can also copy instruments too. So if for some reason you want multiple of the same questionnaire, you don't have to manually go back and add that in. You can just keep adding new instruments. Or if you have colleagues that already built out this exact project you want to use, copy it from them, upload it in REDCap, then you don't need to design it from scratch. Again, if that doesn't answer your question, please let me know and then we can get it answered. So now this should look familiar. Here's our screener. So they're going to be 20 years old. They're going to live in India. And then this doesn't have any practical function other than just if you have a really, really long screener and you just want that piping to see the responses. So we're going to hit this. Hope our branching works. Great. And you'll see right here, that thing where we had now, it pops up. I'm going to show you now what it looks like if we were ineligible. Fingers crossed it won't branch us. So let's say 17, but they still live in India. So they're just living in India, not in the age range, and it didn't take us to the survey. So that's exactly what you want, and you can customize this message here. Thank you for completing the survey. At this point, you're not eligible. Please follow us on social media. We're always posting new ones. So there's an example right there. So how we get back to what we had, designer, and then that survey queue right there was how we were able to add that branching logic in. Branching logic is when it tells you if they say yes, yes, no, or no, yes, yes, then send them this way. If they say no, send them to this one. So we'll do an example of that right now. So we'll say, we'll do radio buttons. We'll say, what is your gender identity? So a variable name, gender. Usually when I'm actually running a survey, I like to make things required that I really want, but since with all this mock practice, it'll be a bit annoying to require things, but again, just flagging, that's an option. This would likely not be an identifier. And then we will say cis gender woman, cisgender man, transgender woman, transgender man, gender non-conforming or non-binary. 6, we'll say other, and of course there are way more genders than what I have listed here. So flagging that. And then we're going to do this thing called field embedding. So I'll show us what that is. So before, when we did piping was like this, field embedding. I wish I knew the technical names of these. I just think that there's the pretty one is for field embedding, and then the more straight one for piping. So piping, again, is if we remember what we had in that screener where it said age and it said India, That's piping. So piping is taking responses from past questions and having them show up later in the survey. You can also pipe across instruments. So if I had in the screener, what's your name? And then in the survey, I want to add, welcome back, Sammy. You can have it go across instruments. Field embedding is when you're going to add a response option into part of another question. So I'm going to show us that right now. So you'll see right here, when we say other, we ideally want them to let us know what the other is. So how we'll do that then is we're going to say other, and we're going to make it a short text box. And this will say other gender. So what you'll see right here, that field embedding. So in those pretty brackets, you'll see other gender, which is that same exact, I wish I knew how to get rid of this. You'll see it where it says field is embedded elsewhere on that page. So that little green line right there. Other gender is the variable name. So we're going to go back to our survey and test this. Awesome. Great. So notice we're going to compare these two things. So we all can see right now the kind of building out of it. So it's not the pretty link right now. What we see is me and REDCap working on the survey. Is that correct? Yes. So you can see right here, it says other, pretty brackets, other gender. But then let's go to the survey. It says other right there. So one, you can see it looks a lot nicer when you actually have this text box embedded into the response. So you can do this for anything. So let's say we wanted, we'll do another example. What's your current mood? 1, happy. 2, stressed. 3, other, and then fancy brackets. And we're going to do other underscore mood as our variable name. This one will title mood, and we'll save it. So then if we want to then embed other mood so it shows up nice and pretty, we will say other, and then we're going to make it a short text box, other underscore mood. Again, if there's any questions, I know I'm going pretty quickly. So if there's questions on anything that we've covered so far, please, I am the person when I'm on these things where it's annoying how much I raise my hand and ask questions. So if anyone wants to channel my energy, that is highly encouraged. So we just learned some field embedding. Now let's do branching logic. So if we remember what branching is, that means, let's say I selected, I am a cisgender woman. I wouldn't want a question coming up saying, tell me about your experiences as someone who's non-binary. That it doesn't go. If I say, what's your current mood? And I click happy, and then the question comes up, what's making you stressed right now? It doesn't make sense. So that's where branching logic comes in. So let's try it. What's making you happy right now? And we can call this source underscore happy. There's no science for naming this. You just want them to make sense while you do it. And I want this one to be a notes box because I want to have a lot of space in order to write down what's making me happy. But we don't want too much space. We want to put a character limit on it. So we're going back to our favorite thing, these action tabs, and we're going to go down to where it says character limit. Because again, we have 200 people filling out this survey and we have limited time. So I don't want to read 5-paragraph responses, or I would love to. I just don't have time on this project. So your character limit, I'm going to say 200 is my character limit right here. Update, save it. So we'll test that after. And again, none of this I have memorized. This is not memorized. Everything is in REDCap. And even on the side right here, learn how to pipe, learn how to do field embedding, learn action tags. So once you decide, oh, I need to launch this survey, I feel very, very comfortable saying just spend an hour or two, or maybe a little bit more in REDCap, and you'll be feeling really, really good. So again, let's go back to branching. So it wouldn't make sense if someone clicked stressed, and then I ask them, what's making you happy right now? That would be a really strange survey flow. So we're going to go to this little cute like arrow in the road, if you will, and it's called branching logic. So we saw the advanced branching syntax earlier. So that was when I manually typed in those things like age is greater than or equal to this. So that is your advanced, you're typing it in yourself with these formulas. But they have, this is what most people use in REDCap, and they've really done a good job of enhancing this feature over the past couple of years. It's called the drag and drop logic builder. Whoever named that was in a happy mood when they did. So if I want this question on happiness to show up, I want them to say that they were happy. So only show this question below if they selected happy to mood. Okay. And you can see right here, then let's also add another one saying, what's making you feel stressed right now? And you want just a good consistency with your variable name. So source stress. And then character limit, we'll set to 200 again, just because that sounds nice. Okay, so now let's go test this out. All right. Oops. I didn't put my branching logic in, so I was like, why is that showing up? So let's go back to that green arrow, your branching logic. There's no need to use the advanced branching in this case because you have this beautiful drag and drop logic builder. So I only want the question on stress to show up if they respond here that they're stressed. So I'll save that. And then let's go test this. So right here, what's your current mood? I'm happy. And it says, what's making you happy right now? And you only have 200 characters remaining because that was an action tag of character limit we added. We can also say, no, I'm stressed. What's making you stressed right now? Or other, we didn't branch anything into. So happy pops up with happy, stressed pops up with stressed, and other is other. Awesome, great question. I'll get to this at the end because there are a couple key differences. That's actually the reason for the GCC Being project that we're using Qualtrics for the nationwide survey. So I'll make sure we save some time at the end for that. Now I'm going to just show, again, there's so many more features than this, and I wish there was more time to cover things. I'm going to show this thing, matrix of fields. So if you were doing, say, a Likert scale, so 1 to 7, 1 being the least positive influence, 7 being the most positive, where does this land? So this one I'm going to call favorite ice cream flavors. And this one is going to be, we'll start with chocolate. If anyone has favorite ice cream flavors, if you don't have questions, please put your favorite in the chat and it can make an appearance in this matrix table. So if you are here and you are comfortable sharing your favorite flavor, that would be lovely. So let's say least I will genuinely be so sad if no one has a favorite. Kim, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Okay. Let's see what we have. Choco hazelnut, tender coconut. Awesome. Let's get those added. We need one more. What brave soul will show their... Oh, I see someone. Oh, nah. We're really all... This is the question we needed to break the ice. I feel so bad as I won't include all of these. I'll go, oh, we have a double for mint. So that sounds good. Thank you all for that great participation. Hazelnut, coconut, which I spelled wrong, mint. All right, so again, how it's going to pop up is favorite ice cream flavors. We have chocolate, vanilla, choco hazelnut, tender coconut, mint. And these variable names, again, really straightforward. You're not doing anything creative with them. So 1 is going to be your least favorite, 2, 3, 4, 5, your most favorite. And here's this really cool feature that you can do in REDCap. You can do ranking. So this one I'm going to call ice cream. So if you rank it, I'll show. That's going to get, you're going to get everyone to put their favorite ice cream flavors from least favorite to most favorite. So we'll save this. Sure, a research question that none of our surveys have asked before, but now we're prepared to do it. So if you ever want to do ranking, here it is. So my least favorite, I'm so sorry, I think it was Merlin. I'm going with tender coconut for my least favorite, followed by switching to vanilla. I changed my mind, but notice when I changed my mind, it removed the least favorite from tender coconut. It said you can only have one least favorite. So I'm indecisive. I go back and I say tender coconut is my least favorite. It'll remove from vanilla. So just a great feature there of it ensures you're not having people double ranking things if you click that button. So I can go with vanilla. It just doesn't matter what the heck I do, but notice it'll keep moving things around so you can only respond for one value per thing. Going to the question that someone put in the chat of what's like a limitation of REDCap / what's a benefit or difference with Qualtrics. You can use it on cell phones, but it really was not designed to be compatible with cell phones. So if you had a big ranking matrix table like this, it's not going to beautifully consolidate into a mobile app screen. There will be some scrolling and it's going to look a little bit clunky. So why we decided to use Qualtrics for this study that we're launching with young adults is Qualtrics has this feature, if you all can see, it's called drag and drop as well, not to be confused with the branching builder. Yes, yep, Davica, if you're not seeing the chat, says it looks bad on small screens. Yes, so this is why a huge reason that we chose to use Qualtrics is because this is a lot more aesthetically pleasing, and Qualtrics is kind of it's built more with aesthetics in mind. Another pro of Qualtrics that actually I can show very briefly in REDCap as well. REDCap, it's pretty tough to, let's say, latitude. I don't know the last time I spelled that word. And I'm an action tag. I'll go through and share why I'm doing this. Qualtrics is nice and it will capture the geographic location, not perfectly, but let's say I can give an example. So in the US, we had various studies that offered high compensation amounts. And we found that individuals that filled out the form were not even in the US. I can use an example that we had for Photo Voice Jaipur we just launched from ARG. We had people filling out this form from all different locations outside of Rajasthan, and we only wanted people in Rajasthan. A limitation of REDCap is we didn't find that out until we got on the phone with them and asked them. Qualtrics has a beautiful, nice little map that pops up. It's not perfect, so it's not creepy. It doesn't say Kim lives at this address in Goa, nothing that specific, but I could say, okay, Kim's in Goa. So if you had, let's say, a state specific survey or a geographic survey, and you wanted to have a general idea of where participants were completing it from, Qualtrics is nicer in that way. The only equivalent that I found in REDCap, and anyone else with more REDCap experience, please jump in and let me know alternatives. I'd love to learn. Is it has latitude and longitude features, which if the respondent gives the okay for the website to have permission to collect this, you can do it. So I will show both of those very quickly. It just doesn't have the same longitude, the same kind of thrill as seeing like a map and having it. You would have to then go look up where these coordinates are. So what I just did is I have a field label with a short response, this variable name, longitude, nothing wild there, and then that action tag. So if I save this, we go back to our sample survey. You'll go down here and it'll auto-populate since I already gave my laptop permission earlier today. But if you were new to this survey, it would ask, can we collect your location and update? So that's why I think, especially if you have compensation involved, we find, I think, across nations, there's an eagerness to receive that compensation. So if compensation is involved, I like Qualtrics because you can flesh out geographic locations a bit better. Qualtrics also has a no repeat completion one. There are workarounds. Someone could open up a private tab on their computer, but if someone at least tried to take it twice in the same window, it'll block. So biggest pro of Qualtrics, I'd say, is it aesthetically pleasing, especially on mobile phones. And if compensation is involved, it is a bit better at tracking locations. Pros of REDCap is it was made for sensitive data. The security levels you'll find in REDCap are unparalleled. So if you're really concerned about keeping this information protected, REDCap is great. And also Qualtrics you don't use for data management. So I'm really only comparing survey to survey. If you're doing data management, quality control, quality assessments, any of that, REDCap's the tool for you. And I think also REDCap is a bit more compatible with launching across sites because you can set up different users on servers. There's still collaborate function in Qualtrics, but it's just not as well integrated as you have in REDCap. I know there's only 5 minutes left. I can show a couple other features, but I do want to make sure I answer everyone's questions first. Oh, actually, there was one question I realized I totally forgot to answer. Someone who kindly submit most of the questions people submitted were related to it was just, I want to build out a survey. But one person asked, they said, what happens if you are halfway through recruitment, so 100 people filled out this survey, and you realize I have to add a new question. So do you have to manually go back and input all of that data participant by participant? The good news is no, you don't. So you go down to this thing that's called Data Import Tool. And then you're going to download your data import template with records in rows. And again, there will be a recording of this. So if this was your question and I'm going too quickly, I hope the recording will be sufficient. So imagine this all would have been filled out because in this hypothetical situation, we have 100 responses already. And then let's say age was our new thing. So you would have 1, 2, 3, India, yes, no, and age is your blank one. You would just go type in all of their ages, whatever it be. You save this. Am I sharing my full screen?
Yeah, Sammy, we can see your web browser. We can't see the correct screen.
The amount of time I've done that. So we'll go back to downloading your data import template. And we got to this page by going to Data Import Tool. So you download it. And then what will pop up? All of this will in theory already be populated because you collected their IDs. And imagine all of this is populated. And let's say age is our new one. So this would be blank. And then you can go type in everyone's ages, save this, and then you'll scroll down here, re-upload it, and then it's going to go and populate all of those old record IDs, which are your participants. So if that was your question, the good news is no, you don't need to manually go back. Another question asked about Excel being compatible with REDCap, and 100%. You can see right here for exporting your data, you have all different options here. So what we usually do, this is those things called labels. Those are all of your variable names. So that's why it was really important to give them good names. So when you send this over to your data team, they're not confused on what are you giving me. You should have a clear variable name so they know what it is. And imagine if you're sending something to a funder or a third party to analyze and you want to protect that information. If you had it tagged as an identifier, you click it there, it'll remove it. I said there was one question, specific features to ensure data security and privacy. Yes, I would love to follow up via email. There's all that information on the REDCap website, which I don't have memorized, but I will say IRBs across the globe love REDCap for a reason. So I will work with Kim to get your email, and then I can direct you to more specifics. Yeah, so if someone makes a spelling mistake, you can fill it out questionnaire. So you can correct it in the Excel, depending on, remember that thing I said at the start, user rights. So if you're the PI and you're like, I am the only one that wants to correct things, you wouldn't share that user right. Otherwise, you can go in and you can make edits directly onto the forms as long as whoever is in charge of the project gives you permission. So no, that Excel thing, I would just make edits directly on REDCap if it's just tiny, small things like that. The Excel, I would really only use if there's a big change. We know we're at time. I hope this was helpful for people. I feel like I rambled for an hour, but please, I think everyone should have my email, or if not, please reach out to Kimberly and she'll share it. And I'm happy to share more of the limited REDCap knowledge I have, or if you have learned things from your own experiences that you can share with me so I can keep growing my skills, that'd be great too. But thank you all for spending your Tuesday with me.